This tutorial is on the 2019 CPT codes, also known as the 9 codes, and their usage as related to BIPS employees. It's intended to get you familiar with the basic concept of their usage so you can utilize them with your work with insurance clients. We'll be discussing throughout this presentation the sheet that you see here, which is a little bit of a guide, and this guide will be available to all employees for their regular reference. We're going to zoom into the upper portion of the guide just to understand the way it's laid out and the way it'll relate to you finding information that you need. Okay, so we're zoomed in, and let's talk about the top section of the guide. You can see in the first column across the top we say 2019 CPT Code. Next column says 2019 CPT Code Descriptor. Next column is 2019 CPT Code Descriptor Layman's Terms in Use. After that we have Insurance, Modifier, Provider, Contact, Notes, and Directly Supervised. So let me explain what all these mean. On the left side, though, you'll see information including text, including assessment and reassessment, supervision, direct care, group therapy, and parent training, and then the codes under those categories. So 2019 CPT Code Descriptor is the actual descriptor used by insurance companies to describe the service. It's a little bit technical and has some language that might sometimes be confusing. That's why we created the second column, which is the layman's terms in use, just to try to make it a little bit easier to understand when you're supposed to use that. The column labeled insurance is there because certain insurances have different uses for the different codes, and it's important to understand the differences. Although you should know that when you're working with a particular client, this will all automatically be set up for you, but you should still be familiar nonetheless. The modifier you can kind of ignore. That's more related to sending claims through, but that's there just because there is a difference between the codes within certain companies like UBH. The provider is who's actually providing the service, so you'll see there's sometimes mention of QHP or the technician, and we'll go through that as we go through the different codes. Contact means whether it's direct or indirect contact time with the client, right? So you can see some areas say direct or indirect, and some say direct. There generally speaking is no indirect time with the 9 codes, the 2019 CPT codes. The notes column are just for additional information that could be useful in utilizing that code. And the directly supervised is again just to help you understand how that relates to when a supervisor and a therapist might be working at the same time with a client. So let's dig down into these codes. Actually, before we get into the details of each code, I want to point out one more thing about this sheet, this guide sheet. If you go down to the bottom of the sheet, you'll see that there is a little bit of a further guide where I indicated some typical usage. And there are 2 rows there, one for the technician and one for the QHP. So you can see there's what I would say are codes that you would usually use, often use, rarely use, and never use. So in this case, the technician will usually be using 97153 when working with any client that utilizes the new 9 codes. Often is irrelevant in this case. Rarely will the technician use 97152 or 97154, and the technician is never going to be using 97151, 97155, 97156, 7, or 8. The QHP would usually use 97153 or 97155. They may often use 97156, and then rarely utilizing the other codes listed in the other column. So let's take a look at 97153, Adaptive Behavior Treatment by Protocol, administered by the tech under the direction of the QHP face-to-face with one patient. So the layman's term is it's direct care, as we know it, one-on-one. Okay? Now, in this case, Blue Cross, Aetna, and GHI indicate that the provider is the technician or the QHP, and this is direct contact time. It might also be directly simultaneously billed with 97155 by the QHP. So when someone is providing 97153 direct care, a technician, through Blue Cross, Aetna, or GHI, the QHP might be there billing 97155 at the same time. You cannot have a QHP being supervised by another QHP. So you can't use 97155 by two people at the same time. Now looking at it with UBH, there's a slight differentiation. It's still direct care one-on-one, but there are three different options with UBH. One is when it's provided by the QHP. One is when it's provided by a technician who has a bachelor's level or higher degree. And another is by a technician who has less than a bachelor's level. Okay? So in those cases, you can see the notes are a little bit more clear here because they've broken them out. When the QHP is providing 97153, there cannot be any simultaneous billing because they are providing the direct care. When a technician is providing direct care, the QHP might be there providing the supervision and protocol modification. Let's continue with codes related to the paraprofessional for the moment. One other code that you might see popping up in your authorizations are 97152, and this is the supporting assessment by the technician. This is the technician's face-to-face time with the client as the proxy for the QHP, or working for the QHP doing the QHP's work that is directed. This might include doing an FBA, an FA, a BIP, or other structured observations, and or administration or instruments or procedures. Okay? So this is directly correlated to the QHP's work of directing the technician, analysis, and assessment. Okay? This is only done on rare occasions by the technician and only when specifically directed by the QHP. Within Blue Cross, Aetna, and GHI, this can be done by the technician or the QHP utilizing the same code. And with UBH, this is done by the QHP or the technician, direct face-to-face, and there are different modifiers depending on who is providing that service. Now let's focus on the QHP for a moment. I'm going to scroll down a little bit just to pull up 97156. So in this case, the QHP has three codes that it's going to use on a regular basis: 97153, 97155, and 97156. As we already discussed, 97153 is direct care, and there's various uses for that depending on the insurance carrier. 97155 is either the direct care by the BCBA with protocol modification or supervision of a para while that providing the protocol modification. Okay, so it can be used as your direct contact time or while directing the para to provide a modification to the protocol that they are running. As you can see here on the column of notes, it can be billed simultaneous with 97153 as long as it's by the QHP supervising a technician. Blue Cross, Aetna, and GHI, as well as UBH, all indicate that it has to be a QHP. 97156 is Family Adaptive Treatment Guidance, also known as parent training. This is done by the QHP with one family. With Blue Cross, Aetna, GHI, and UBH, this is all performed only by the QHP. Now, Blue Cross, Aetna, and GHI says that it's done without the patient present, right? So this is specifically for for parent training with the caregivers, while UBH indicates that the patient may be present. I don't think that Blue Cross, Aetna, and GHI are saying that you must not have the patient present, but I think that they're indicating that this is not a direct contact service with the patient. Let's take a quick look at some of the other codes that relate to supervisors or QHPs. We have 97151, which is your assessment. This is done as the initial assessment, the initial intake, or when you're doing a reassessment at the end of an authorization period. This can be done direct or indirect, and the details are indicated in the CPT Code descriptor column. 97152 can also be done by the QHP, but also could be done by the technician if directed by the QHP, and that's supports for providing an assessment. Scrolling down, we'll take a look at a couple of the other codes. We already mentioned 97156 is Family Adaptive Treatment Guidance, Parent Training with One Family. But there's 97157 when we're doing a group parent training, also only provided by the QHP. 97158 is Group Direct Care, and that could also be known as a social skills group, also done by the QHP. These other codes are temporary codes. We still have some temporary codes in use in 2019, 0373T and 0362T. These are for severe maladaptive behavior. We're not going to go into these at this time. As you can see, these codes affect supervisors a little bit more than they affect technicians or paraprofessionals. There's a few things important to note. With the 9 codes, the 2019 CPT codes, we can bill simultaneously for 2 services provided by the QHP and the technician at the same time. Because of this, there's no need to schedule an appointment with an additional participant. So for example, the technician or paraprofessional can schedule their 97153 direct care with the client from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. and independently, the supervisor or QHP can schedule 97155 for the same period or a shorter period in that time frame. The reason is, as opposed to H0032, which required that you work supervising a technician, in this case you can change what you're doing on the fly by doing 97155 even if the technician is not necessarily there. Each person will have to write their own session notes. So if a technician is providing a service from 4 to 6 p.m. and the supervisor is there providing overlap using protocol modification 97155, both the technician will write a note and the supervisor will write their own note. Just one more thing to point out. There's been mention of the QHP versus technician multiple times here. And you'll see that in the provider column, there's mention of a QHP at various levels, right? QHP that has a bachelor's level or higher versus a QHP that is an LBA and BCBA. For our work with the insurance companies in New York State, all the time a QHP is going to be an LBA and a BCBA. We don't have the option to have a QHP that doesn't have those 2 credentials or certifications providing those higher level services. If you have any questions about these codes, their uses, changes, and how it affects your work, please feel free to come speak with the office manager or your supervisor or the director of the company. Questions are always welcome. Thank you.